Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm your host, Hilmarie Hutchison, and today's guest brings together innovation, impact, and an unwavering commitment to uplifting vulnerable communities across the globe. Layma Murtaza is the Vice President of Business Development and a board member at ASEEL, a global tech platform that merges ethical commerce with humanitarian aid. With over a decade of experience in some of the world's most challenging environments, Layma has led strategic roles across many organizations. Through her work at ASEEL, she's scaling tech-enabled solutions that empower artisans and provide life-saving aid to underserved communities, proving that dignity and digital innovation can go hand in hand. Layma, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Hilmarie. I'm very happy to be on your podcast today and present ASEEL's work.
Fantastic. Your journey is incredibly inspiring. Can you please start by telling us a bit about yourself and your background?
I am Afghan-American, and I was born and raised in the Bay Area near San Francisco, California. I studied political science and then global public policy with a focus on humanitarian themes, such as forced migration and refugee studies and international human rights law. I started my career journey in California political fundraising for the Democratic Party and political campaigns. And then it transformed for working for a California State Assembly member and eventually becoming a lobbyist for a social justice organization. I think I always had a thirst for history, the world, the special treasures that each culture has that I felt was hidden because of the lack of access to platforms. So I always wanted to explore the world. And this actually led me to going to graduate school at the American University in Cairo, and I lived in Egypt for 2 years during a very pivotal time in history from 2010 to 2012. So I saw the Egyptian revolution from the front lines. And then after Egypt, I lived and worked in Afghanistan for 5 years, which was just such an amazing experience as a diaspora that was born in another country and then getting to experience her parents' country. And then I went to Washington, D.C. after that to work on Syria and the reconstruction and civil society efforts. It was during COVID at that time, so I was just kind of like angst to be able to go abroad again. And I moved to Jordan to continue my work in Syria. And then as political issues just kept continuing in the world, and even as we see today, the fall of Afghanistan and that government in 2021 happened. So I then went to Qatar to help support the Afghan evacuation effort in 2022. In 2023, we saw the earthquakes that happened in Turkey, and I went and lived in Turkey between Adana and Istanbul to support the earthquake reliefs. So that's a little bit about my professional and some of my academic journey. And right now I'm completing my second master's. I have only one more class left in international development at the American University in Washington, D.C.
Fantastic. What a history you've had. What a journey you've had already. And you're still fairly young, still working on your second degree. Brilliant. Excellent that you're making the time for that as well. And having lived in all these different countries, Afghanistan, Syria, Jordan, Qatar, absolute, and Turkey you also mentioned at the end there, amazing. And having worked in conflict zones, on refugee resettlement, governance reform, and civil society, how have those experiences shaped your approach to leadership and partnership building?
I think first, my family upbringing, being from a refugee community in Fremont, California, actually shaped a lot of the knowledge and like the needs of the community because they were very visible. And there was a lack of leadership because I was just a kid from a more patriarchal type of society that was a bubble within the state of California. A youth is not really given a platform for leadership. So we really didn't trust ourselves as young leaders, always had a strong need for adults to fulfill. And I think this actually hurt us young millennials in the long run because even when you go back to my community now, we matured a little later than everyone else. I actually didn't step into a leadership space until my late 20s and early 30s. And that was after living abroad and navigating challenging experiences on my own in another country. But going back to my career journey, when I started working with the Democratic Party in California, I learned a lot about coalition building through campaign work. Also, customer service and understanding of client needs and ensuring that listening to my community about their priorities and concerns became the kind of groundwork for my international development and humanitarian experience. Within the international development industry, you have to work with partners and build strong alliances and partnerships to ensure you're not overlapping in certain geographical or technical areas. And you're actually complementing the work of each other. And the aid industry is not as competitive as other, industries like marketing or businesses. And it doesn't have to be because we all have the same mission and vision, which is partly why I love it. So when you understand the people that you want to serve, whether it's a client, whether it's a community, whether it's someone who's directly involved, you can co-design the direction of how you want to positively impact their lives. And this is the ultimate goal when you're driven by sustainable change. So when you've worked on or lived in different countries, it allows you to gather multiple viewpoints, experiences, cultures, languages, and then you can understand how people are motivated to move. So you gain the ability to support ways to gain consensus because you can pull all their pain points in and then talk to them about what they want to see the change to. So that's kind of how I've seen my role in the leadership space and what grounds me within that.
As you've said, living in all these different areas, all the different cultures that come into play, different people manages or approaches things differently would also have been another part of your education. And I love what you said. Doesn't matter who the customer is, understanding the customer's needs and then working together to co-design a solution is the best way. And your experience, your background certainly has prepared you to be good at this. Let's talk about ASEEL. It is a really unique platform. Can you tell our audience a little bit about ASEEL? Tell us about the platform. How does it work and who can get access to it?
ASEEL is indeed a very unique platform because it blends ethical e-commerce with decentralized humanitarian aid, and it's all powered by technology designed specifically for fragile and under-resourced countries. So we operate through two core solutions, our Buy Good and Do Good platforms. On the Buy Good side, artisans, many whom are women in conflict-affected areas like Afghanistan, can sell their handmade products globally using our mobile app or our web platform. So we support them with training, logistics, onboarding, cross-border payments, and even unbanked environments we work in. So it's a full stack solution that preserves cultural heritage while opening doors to the global digital economy. That is one part of our platform. The other part is our Do Good, which is our humanitarian side. And it allows donors and institutions to send life-saving aid like food packages, hygiene kits, or winter relief directly to verified beneficiaries tracked transparently through our OMID ID system. Our local volunteers, who we call the Atalan Network, are also our heroes, deliver the aid, making sure it gets to the right people and fast. So anyone can access the platform, whether you're an artisan, a donor, an NGO, or just someone who wants to make a real impact in someone's life. And so what we're focused on is empowering local communities while connecting them to the global ecosystem of support.
Wow, that's fantastic. Creating a platform like this to help these underserved communities, giving them that access to a market themselves could not reach without your help. That's absolutely fantastic. And then also your Do Good platform, which helps people then who are in a position to give back and provide resources that can then also be used for these underserved communities. What have been some of the biggest challenges in delivering and supporting artisans through tech?
Some of the biggest and most common hurdles have been really around infrastructure and security. So, for example, in Afghanistan, you're dealing with limited internet, there's financial restrictions and logistic systems that don't always function. So even getting aid across a few kilometers can be life-threatening or delayed by checkpoints. And similarly, in Turkey, during the earthquake response, navigating disrupted supply chains while maintaining transparency was a major test. However, because we work with local networks, they know how to navigate their geographies very well. They have the communities that they're able to tap in to make things a bit more streamlined, and people want to work with them. But that's also where our technology becomes a lifeline. And it's like tools like our OMID ID system and our Heroes network that allow us to deliver that aid directly and track every package, even when it's offline. So for our artisans, integrating cross-border payments in unbanked settings and building digital literacy from the ground up has been a slow process over the years, but also impactful because when it is up and running, it helps and it's streamlined and it's quick. As for our wins, we've already reached over 544,000 people across Afghanistan and Turkey through aid. So it's already helped our artisans earn sustainable income. And we hear stories from our families who say this aid came when no one else could reach us. And those are really unforgettable moments for us. The fact that we can do this with less than 5% overhead and we can deploy resources within 48 hours in places where most systems fail is both our biggest challenge and our proudest achievements.
Amazing. It must be so satisfying to see the impact of the work that you're doing. Amazing that you've already reached 544,000 people. So that's a huge impact. We're not talking small numbers here. And it's because you're using technology. And then as you speak of your local heroes, to get the ability for the artisans in these underserved communities to be able to then earn an income, earn a living, which is absolutely fantastic. How does ASEEL ensure ethical sourcing and sustainable practices while scaling globally?
At ASEEL, ethical sourcing and sustainability are foundational for us. It's not an option, especially as we scale globally. So, on the buy goods side, we work directly with artisans and micro producers, many of whom are in marginalized or conflict affected communities. And every artisan goes through an onboarding process that includes training on fair pricing, quality standards, and ethical production. So we don't just list their products, we're trying to co-create their success stories and ensure they're not being exploited by middlemen. And payments go directly to the artisans through the via mobile or digital systems tailored for these unbanked regions. And in terms of sustainability, our model really tries to emphasize on low waste production, small batch inventory, and local materials. So we also minimize our carbon footprint by developing regional supply chains and investing in our local delivery networks, which are our hero network within Afghanistan. And so as we grow, our focus is scalable dignity. We want to make sure that growth doesn't dilute our impact, but it actually amplifies it through responsible practices and community first infrastructure.
How big is your community of supporters in all these different regions that you are creating solutions in?
When you ask how big is our supporter base, what exactly do you mean? So we have like a local in-country network within Afghanistan and Turkey, but then we have like supporters who probably are very well known within Afghanistan, the diaspora community, and it's become kind of like a brand name. So I'd love to know a little bit more in terms of like your question. When you ask support, what does that mean?
Just in terms of the coordination you have to do, as you mentioned earlier, you've reached 544,000 people. Just wondering how much coordination, how many people are you coordinating across these different regions, whether they marginalized or conflict impacted communities? It must take a lot of work to orchestrate something this widespread.
Absolutely. It does take a lot of work, but because our teams are grounded locally in the community, they have a lot of internal and contextual knowledge. So our Atalan network, at a minimum, and it continues to grow, is at 500 people across Afghanistan. And we also have an Atalan network in Turkey that supports our vendors within Istanbul and other provinces. And so it does. And we have an office based in Kabul, Afghanistan that manages the Hero Network. And then we also have offices in Turkey and in Washington, D.C. So we're all working together to ensure that there's transparency, accountability, and effectiveness.
I love that. That's amazing that so many people are willing to step up and support what is a fantastic cause that's got creating so much impact for the people who actually need it. It's fantastic. Your Welcome Returnees Kit is a brilliant initiative. Can you please walk us through how it works and what kind of impact it's had on families?
Yeah, I would love to. So, the Welcome Returnees Kit is our most impactful and human centered response to the ongoing displacement crisis. Right now, Afghan families are being, I guess the word is deported from Pakistan and Iran. And so it's designed specifically for them returning under duress. So many of them who arrive at the border come with nothing. So the idea for us was very simple: meet the Afghans where they are with exactly what they need to survive and rebuild in those critical first days of arrival. So each kit includes basic food items like hygiene supplies and essential non food items like blankets or cookware. And it's tailored for about a family of 5 to 7 people for 2 weeks. But more importantly, we deliver these kits through our Heroes Network using our tech system. And that also includes our OMAID IDs. So everything is tracked and verified. So anyone who actually donates knows where their money is going to and how it was used. And the impact, so in just a few days, when we did do our first campaign, we reached thousands of returnees. And we heard stories of mothers who used our kits to feed their children after days without food, and families who say this was the first support they received after crossing the border. So for us, it's about giving people a sense of dignity and hope as they start over in their new journey back to Afghanistan that they may have not even been to for the last 20 years. So that's a really important starting point for ASEEL when it comes to these returnee kits.
Again, it's a brilliant initiative. As you say, these people, these Afghan returnees coming back from these various countries with nothing. And then at least you're giving them a hope, something to start with, that they're not totally without any of the basic things, those essential foods and goods that you're giving to them. And I love that you're not just sending things out willy-nilly without knowing where they land, that you're actually able to, through your technology, you're tracking so that people who donate to this cause know that there's a whole process behind it and the donation is going to reach the right people who actually need the support at the right time. You have made a huge impact in a relatively short time. What advice would you give to young professionals, especially women, hoping to make an impact in the development or humanitarian sectors?
Yeah, that's a really good question because this sector is not easy to navigate. It's small and it takes a lot of tenacity to move forward. So, my biggest advice to young professionals, especially women hoping to make an impact in the development or humanitarian space, is don't do it alone. This work is not meant to be a solo journey. I would advise to tap into your networks, reach out to people, and don't be shy about asking for informational interviews or quick calls. Call as many people as you can. Tell them you're interested in the field, that you want to learn, and ask them how they got started. Most people are more willing to help than you actually think. And so if you also feel like things aren't moving fast enough, maybe you're applying to jobs and not hearing back, or I would recommend start creating your own platform. Write a blog, launch a podcast, start an Instagram or TikTok, make short video clips sharing your thoughts on global issues. Submit op-eds, post on platforms like LinkedIn or Medium, share your perspective. If you're dedicated to a cause and you're not getting the visibility that you want, build your own professional profile while you work towards where you want to be. This sector values passion, but it also rewards consistency and creativity. So you have a voice. I would recommend to use it. And above all, remember your path doesn't have to look like everyone's else's. Just keep showing up, keep learning, and keep building what you want to see, even if it's one connection at a time. And those are some of the things that I've learned on my journey that I think is important to take into consideration for others that may just be starting.
Wow, I love that. Especially don't do it alone. Don't think that this is a path you have to take alone, but tap into others, tap into your network. But I also like what you said. Be open and willing to learn. And then if you don't find the platform where you need to be, create your own. Be out there, be vocal, talk about the things that matter to you. Some really, really good tips and advice for others. Thank you for that. Looking at the future of aid and development, where do you see the greatest opportunities for transformation?
The future of aid needs a major shift, and we've seen that by some of the things that have happened earlier this year within the current US administration. And I believe that the greatest opportunities for transformation and what we at ASEEL are really focused on is decentralized aid. The current aid model reinforces dependency, power imbalances, and inefficiencies. And while it's well intentioned, the system, and everyone knows, is deeply flawed. Some of the major criticisms have been there is top down decision making, and too often aid programs are designed in donor capitals, and they're really far removed from the communities they're meant to serve. So, this leads to mismatched priorities where solutions are kind of imposed rather than co created. The second criticism is the lack of localization. So, we know that local actors understand their culture, their context, and their needs, and they receive a fraction of global aid funding. So, despite the years of commitments to localize aid, because this has been one of the big strategies of many donors, money and decision making power still remain with large institutional organizations. And then the next criticism was basically inefficiency and bureaucracy. Significant funds that are donated are usually lost to overhead, compliance costs, and layers of subcontracting. And in some cases, aid money circulates within institutions more than it reaches people on the ground. And we've seen that with like larger institutions that I won't name at the moment. And then there's accountability gaps. Aid organizations are often more accountable to donors and the communities that they serve. And this can create situations where reporting looks really good on paper, but the actual impact is limited and sometimes even harmful. So, decentralized aid flips that model, and it means building systems where local people, local technology, and local knowledge lead the response. And at ASEEL, we use a network of trained community members, our hero network, to deliver aid directly to the beneficiaries. And we believe this is the future. Local, tech enabled, transparent aid that empowers rather than imposes. It's a transformation of how impact should be made.
Absolutely. No doubt there are really a lot of opportunities for improvement and transformation. What's next for ASEEL and for you? Are you working on any exciting expansions or product innovations?
So we have a few products that are going to launch soon, especially our 8OS platform. And our expansion includes right now, we're studying Syria as a case example. We're also studying the Gaza and the West Bank. And we're starting to gather information of what the infrastructure on the ground looks like because we want to prioritize reconstruction, localized efforts, and support people that are in need. And while there are many countries, we start thinking about how we can build our network and see what the feasibility is that we can expand. So, right now, we're in Afghanistan and Turkey, and we would like to continue that expansion that we know will benefit people in these countries.
So you've not slowed down. There's still a lot of exciting things on the horizon, and you're doing fantastic work. And it's so lovely to hear about all the things you're doing to really help people who need it. Now we have come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
Sure.
One word to describe your leadership style.
Horizontal.
A humanitarian leader who inspires you.
You know, a humanitarian leader that inspires me would be someone I used to work for in Afghanistan. She was a Pakistani leader, and she wanted to make sure that she empowered all the women that worked with her. And I was always just so impressed by her leadership, her care, her energy.
One book or podcast every change maker should check out.
When I was younger, I read this book called An Economic Hitman. I forgot who the author was, but it was such an eye-opening picture of what the aid industry, the US government, and the larger institutions like IFC, ADB, and the UN and how they functioned and how not always in a positive way. And it really helped shape the way that I worked with these institutions, understanding that they're how I wanted to work and make a positive change, even if I had to partner with these organizations that sometimes are harmful to the ecosphere of developing countries. I would definitely recommend it. It's older, but it's a good book.
What is your favorite part of working with artisans?
I love that the artisans are passionate about creating something that comes from their own personal life, their culture. And I love the fact that we get to amplify that, promote it, and promote their heritage, promote things that they are proud that they created. And that is exciting to me that the world can see what they've created when even maybe months before they had no access. So I love to see the success story that comes out of it and the whole journey from having the initial discussions, letting them know what it's going to look like and how their input is going to lead to a positive experience for not only us, but for them as well.
Lovely. What does impact mean to you?
For me, impact means being able to change someone's life in a positive way.
Excellent. What is one thing that you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
Take a walk.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for playing along. That was not too difficult. Now I would like to ask you our signature green pill question. Could you share an inspiring or life-changing experience that you have gone through, your green pill moment?
Yeah, so this is going to start when I was actually younger and what has created the pathway for me to be in the work that I do now. When I was 15, my grandfather passed away, and my grandfather was a very big person and pillar in my life and my family's life. He was a 40-year diplomat from Afghanistan to 11 different countries. He served as the UN ambassador for Afghanistan for over 30 years. He also served as the Minister of Justice. So when he passed away, I was young. And overnight, something inside of me changed. I was this all American girl who wanted to be an actress and a director, moved to LA. And all of a sudden, with his passing, something inside of me shifted. The next day, I went to school after hearing of his passing, and I sat there and just listened to all of my teachers attentively because I felt like I had lost something really powerful with the loss of my grandfather that was a source of knowledge and a source of knowledge to my history, background, and culture. It was then that I shifted my career aspirations and was like, I want to work in politics and I want to change the world for good because I felt like my grandfather did that for his people. And later I found out that it wasn't actually politics that I wanted to work towards. It was international development and humanitarian response that actually felt more right for me. Politics can be an ugly world because you have to make sacrifices and compromises. And while it's true that you have to do everything in life and you have to make compromises and sacrifices in that way, that accountability to make the wrong decisions that can impact so many lives was very hard for me to do. And so after that day of my grandfather's passing, my entire world, my goal was to learn as much as I could about everything and anything related to not only helping Afghanistan, but every country that has a person in need of a voice, support, and amplification. And that's how I think my journey went from studying political science, working in the California policy space, and then jumping into global public policy and humanitarian work actually came together. I like started from one space, ending up to another, but there is a pathway and it makes sense how it all comes together. So I think that was really my green pill moment. And I was lucky enough to have it at such a young age that I feel so confident in where I am in my journey and where I'm headed.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing such a personal story with us. And I can see the big change, and that you were so straight away that things needed to be different, from wanting to be an actress to totally shifting where you wanted to go, getting into politics, and then realizing it's human development and humanitarian work that really sort of resonated with you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing the vital work that you are doing at ASEEL. Your story reminds us of the power of technology, storytelling, and collective action to create systems that uplift and empower, especially where it's needed most.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you and share ASEEL's journey. I hope that the people who are listening to your podcast are interested in learning more about ASEEL or interested in doing more and making an impact in people's lives, knowing that there are organizations and companies that are indeed doing that. There is an appetite for it, and there is a need for mutual aid and cooperation. And so we're always happy to talk to people that want to be more engaged and learn more about this process. And we're always open to new types of partnerships, even if it's information exchange.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners learn more about ASEEL and get involved with your mission?
Sure. So I would definitely recommend the audience to check out ASEEL's website. So it's aseelapp.com. Or you can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And you can just look up ASEEL app and it will be available for you to follow along as we update you all on our journey.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining me today. I wish you and ASEEL all the very best.
Thank you so much.
And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and join us again next week for more inspiring voices shaping a better future. Until next time, keep doing good and being the change.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.